Page 80. Reading. What next?
You've finished college, maybe you've worked for a few years, and you're thinking about what to do next. Read what these two people did to change their lives. Alicia studied banking at a famous business school.
I wanted to work in an investment bank. So after I graduated, I moved into a tiny studio in New York and found a job in Manhattan. It was so perfect. I was living my dream. However, the dream wasn't what I expected. I worked at the bank for 3 months, but it just didn't feel right. One morning I woke up and thought, why am I doing this? I don't want to live in a city and I don't want to work in a bank. If I continue on this path, it might be very difficult to change. So I gave in my notice and a month later I left. What do I really like doing? Riding horses. So I decided to get a job working with horses. I thought, if I really like it, I'll stay. If I don't like it, I'll do something else. I found a job on a ranch in Arizona. 6 months later, I'm still here. My advice, before you accept any job, ask yourself if it's what you really want to do.
3 years ago, Martin worked in an import-export firm.
I enjoyed working at the import-export company, and I liked the people who worked there. But I never felt that it was what I really wanted to do. Then one day, a nurse came to give us a demonstration of first aid techniques, and I suddenly thought, this is what I want to do. I want to be a nurse. Later, of course, I also thought, if I study to be a nurse and I'm no good at it, will I ever get my old job back? I asked my boss the question, but she wasn't sure either. So I decided, okay, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't work out, I will do something else. So I trained to be a nurse. Now, 3 years later, I'm working in a hospital and living in a hut in a small village in West Africa, and I have never been happier. My advice? Don't just do something for money. Do something that makes you happy.
I'd like to live on an island because it would be away from the ordinary hustle and bustle of life, and it would be near the beach so I could spend some time near the ocean. But if you like a busier life, you could live in the city where there's more noise and more cars, but also more to do and more fun things to see.
If you live in the city, you have museums and art and nightclubs and lots of restaurants and lots of activity. But if you live in the country, like I do, you have quiet and forest and ocean, and you can hear the birds and see the stars.
If you live in the country, it's very quiet. It might be a little bit boring, but there's lots of fresh air. If you live in the city, it might be dirty and a little bit noisy. But I like to live in the city. I like to be close to the museums and the nightlife.
If you live in an apartment in the city, you can meet a lot of really interesting people. But if you live out in the country, you can have a lot of time to yourself to just relax. I think for me now, I would prefer to live in an apartment in the city, just because I love hanging out with my friends.